In the city of Cyprus in 300 BC, there lived a very wealthy trader named Zeno. While he was traveling from Phoenicia to Piraeus, his boat sank along with all his cargo. Because of this event, which was completely beyond Zeno's or anyone else's control, this very wealthy man suddenly became poor. Imagine you were Zeno. How would you react if your entire life's work was destroyed by the sheer force of nature? What would be the right reaction? Would you be angry or sad? Would you feel like life has treated you unfairly? For most people, these reactions would be normal, but not for Zeno, who is known as the father of Stoicism. One small change can last a lifetime, and just changing the way you think a little can lead to bigger and more significant changes later on. The main idea of Stoicism is all about accepting and not minding what happens. After reading the works of Socrates and other great philosophers, Zeno created and started teaching Stoicism. According to Zeno, even though we can't control everything that happens to us, we can control how we let it affect us, and we need to use this control effectively. Instead of getting upset over lost goods, Zeno focused on staying calm and composed, no matter the situation. Today, people often think of Stoics as unbreakable, people who don't get carried away by extreme emotions, who don't have fits of rage or intense anxiety. But Stoicism is much more than just being unemotional. It's a way to see, describe, and understand the world. It's a philosophy for life, and this way of living has lasted for centuries. Stoic philosophy can be applied today just as it was thousands of years ago, and its benefits are just as powerful. Stoicism helps us deal with negative emotions from bad experiences and turn them into views that give us a unique perspective on the world. Perspective is everything, and everyone in the world has different experiences and thus different views on things. Since Stoics gathered, discussed, and taught philosophy in public places, their teachings were well known. They believed that Stoic principles could help anyone and everyone, so it didn't make sense to keep this knowledge hidden within the walls of a school or palace courtyards. As a result, everyone from slaves to emperors could learn and become a Stoic, and they did. Some of the world's most notable Stoics include Epictetus, who was once a slave, Seneca, a well-known statesman, and Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and one of the most powerful men ever to live. The early Stoics practiced what they preached. They avoided all forms of segregation and led the fight against inequality. They even invented the word cosmopolitan, which literally means a citizen of the world. When people hear cosmopolitan now, we think of cities like New York, Toronto, Dubai, and London because of their diversity. This was the kind of unity and togetherness that the Stoics preached. Even when it wasn't popular, women were allowed to freely learn about Stoicism and become Stoics themselves. So why do so many people adopt Stoicism as a way of life? In a world full of unexpected events, our emotions can often get in the way. In reality, we don't get sad because bad things happen to us. We get sad because unexpected bad things happen to us. Rain is good because it waters our plants, provides water for livestock, and keeps the temperature cool and humid. But when a dark cloud catches you outside without an umbrella, it's never a pleasant experience. So why don't we start crying when it starts to rain? It's because even though the situation is bad, we've learned to expect rain. It's unavoidable, we can't control the weather, and even though it's unpleasant, the rain passes and light returns. Stoicism teaches us that in the same way, we should expect that bad things can happen. Imagine the worst outcome and be content knowing it could happen. One of the Stoic exercises is known as voluntary discomfort, aimed at increasing gratitude. Sleep on the kitchen floor, take cold showers instead of hot ones, eat only potatoes for a few days. These types of actions help us understand that no matter how tough things get, we can still survive and maybe even thrive if our mindset is right. By being able to endure these uncomfortable situations, we indirectly prepare ourselves mentally for future challenges. With the current state of the world, where advertisements constantly push us to believe that we need the next best thing, look a certain way, or make a certain amount of money to be happy, this message is more important than ever. We come into the world knowing very little. We learn from home, school, and by observing the world ourselves. Often these sources of knowledge teach us in different ways. Do we need to absorb all this knowledge? If we do, we might set unrealistic expectations for our lives, leaving us ultimately disappointed and unsatisfied. That's no way to live. Instead, we should focus on improving ourselves for our own sake. We should do things for ourselves and only for that reason. Attaching any external hope or secondary attachments to our actions almost always leads to disappointment. Most of the time, we end up trying to fill that emptiness with external things, spending all our money on a fancy car, a house, or even starting a family. Sometimes we do these things for their external value, not their internal value. But Stoicism teaches that if you approach life this way, you place your happiness in the hands of external forces, which can always fail. Cars often break down, natural disasters can destroy entire cities, and divorce rates continue to climb. Even the free things in life come at a cost, the cost of space, both physical and mental. As Seneca once wrote, learning to live with less will create space in your life for the things that truly matter to you. Instead, we must base our happiness on our intrinsic value as humans, not on anything we own or can physically acquire. We must strive to keep a cool head, regardless of what life throws at us, because at the end of the day, we don't have control over most things that happen to us, but we do have complete control over how we react to those things. This is the dichotomy of control, the most important principle in Stoic philosophy. Stoics teach that we must learn to separate what we control from what we cannot control. We need to determine our value not from things we can't control, but from the things we can. Striving towards goals is a good trait, but breaking down when things don't go our way is, from a Stoic's point of view, pointless. Making YouTube videos, for example, is a lot easier than being a Roman emperor, but it can still be challenging. First, you must form your idea, which can take forever. Then you research that idea, scrap it because it's not good, start over, script the video, create the video, edit it, make the title, thumbnail, and everything else before you upload it. Everything up to the point where you click upload is all up to you. However, once you click that upload button, the power shifts to the YouTube algorithm. Still, many people judge the success of their YouTube channel or Instagram account based on how many views and subscribers or followers they have, metrics that are mostly beyond your control. Stoics teach that instead, you should judge the success of your work based on the effort you put in, not on the outcome of your external hopes. Trust the process. Consider a person who has been working hard at their job for the past 6 months. They now feel they deserve a promotion, so they approach their boss with their performance report. The boss says thanks but doesn't grant the promotion, and the employee goes home thinking they must be bad at their job. They don't consider that the boss might have simply woken up on the wrong side of the bed, someone else might have been better qualified at the time, or maybe the company was just losing money and couldn't afford it. They don't know the reason, but they're still upset. If they simply placed their value on the quality of the performance report they turned in, kept doing what they were doing to earn the promotion they wanted, they could have been much happier overall. With the right perspective, their goal wouldn't have been diminished, but just postponed. This reframing of your mindset is crucial. A true Stoic does not view their successes based on the financial gain of their ventures, but is comforted by the fact that they can live a comfortable life without all the things money can buy. These are the 4 main virtues of Stoicism: wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. Stoicism is about being able to separate what is internal and what is external, and the ability to choose our reaction to the things that happen to us. As Viktor Frankl said, between stimulus and response, there is a space, and that space is our power to choose our response. Courage, in 2 words, is to persist and resist. Temperance, or moderation, is what I just did there, doing more with less, saying more with fewer words. While Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk are fighting at the top of the Forbes list, Stoics believe that the limit of wealth should simply be having what is essential, and then having what is enough. Justice is the most important of all the virtues. It instructs that no one should do harm to another because we were all born for each other, to do good to one another and not to ourselves. Nelson Mandela was one of the most famous African leaders in the world. While he was fighting against apartheid, he got sentenced to life imprisonment, where he stayed for 27 years before finally being released. When he was released from prison, he was elected president of South Africa, and thus many people thought he was going to brutally punish all the people that had anything to do with apartheid or his imprisonment, but of course, he did not. Throughout his time in prison, Mandela read the works of Marcus Aurelius and learned many of the core values of Stoicism, all of which he practiced throughout his life. Instead of calling for the heads of the wrongdoers, Nelson Mandela urged his people to instead seek the opposite, to relax and rebuild. He stressed that the past was now beyond their control, and that the only thing they could do was find a way to move forward and build a better nation. This is the way of the Stoic. In modern-day medicine, Stoicism is at the core of procedures like rational emotive behavioral therapy and logotherapy. REBT helps patients to identify negative thought patterns that might be causing emotional and behavioral issues. It allows you to challenge the reasoning behind all these negative thoughts with logic, And when you realize that many of them are unfounded, you can then replace them with more productive and healthier beliefs. Logotherapy, on the other hand, is based on the Stoic principle that humans are driven by purpose. Even in the darkest of situations, we can fill our lives with meaning and happiness by simply finding out what that purpose is. As many of us know, though, this is easier said than done. It's a process, much like everything else. We have to rewire the way we think, out with the old, in with the new. To fix our problems with happiness, we must practice so forth. By redirecting our definition of value to the things that we can control, we can stop getting fixated on the things we cannot control, and overall we can lead a much happier and more fulfilling life. Stoicism helps us steer through the past and present storms into calmer and more peaceful waters. And if our ship sinks and we all drown, we can take peace in the fact that we lived a good life, albeit not as long as we had hoped. Because remember, everything has an end.